Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and good Yantiv. I'm reading on page 203. I hereby forgive all who have hurt me, all who have done me wrong, whether deliberately or by accident, whether by word or by deed. May no one be punished on my account. As I forgive and pardon fully those who have done me wrong, may those whom I have harmed by word or by deed forgive and pardon me, whether I acted deliberately or by accident. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. Please rise.
ישיבה של מעלה, וקשיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים.
Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre v'sarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinoyei v'kinosei Shavuot Din darana Udeyishtevana Udeyacharimena V'diyasarna al nafshatana Din darna Udeyishtevana Udeyacharimna V'diyasarna al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba icharatna v'hon kol hon yehon sharan yehon sharan שביתין בתהילין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין נדרנה la nidre ve'esarana o shevuatana la
I'm reading a meditation on page 204. And together, all the vows on our lips, the burdens in our hearts, the pent-up regrets about which we brooded and spoke through prayers without end on last Atonement Day, did not change our way of life, did not bring deliverance in the year that is gone. From mountain peaks of fervor, we fell to common ways at the close of the fast. Will you hear our regret? Will you open our prison, release us from shackles of habit? Will you accept our prayers, forgive our wrongs, though we sin again and again? In moments of weakness, we do not remember promises of Atonement Day. Recall that we easily forget. Take only our heart's intent. Forgive us, pardon us. 205.
Shatana karat navehon kol hon yehon sharon Shavitin Betelin omevotalin Betelin omevotalin La shadin Bella kayanin Bella kayanin Nidrana la nidre Vesarana la esare Ushevuatana Ushvuatana la וניסלח לכל הדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם ולגר הגר בתוכם כי לכל העם בשגגה. סלח נא לעוון העם הזה כגודל חסדיך וכאשר נסעת לעם הזה ממצרים בידנה ושם נאמר ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך. שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. והגיענו לזמן הזה שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, לזמן הזה, לזמן
You may be seated. This being not only Yom Kippur, but also Shabbat, let us read the special song for Shabbat, responsively on 206. It is good to thank you, Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God. Your creation, Adonai, gives me joy. I sing of your handiwork. The thoughtless cannot comprehend. The foolish cannot fathom this. But you, Adonai, are supreme forever. And you will raise my head high like the horn of the ox, anointing me with fragrant oil. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall endure like a cedar in Lebanon, transplanted in the house of Adonai, thriving in our God's courtyard. Let us now rise. Baruch Hu, page 207. Baruch Hu et Adonai
ומבורך.
Baruch atah Adonai, our God, ruler of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Sevaot is your name. Living and ever-present God, may your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המריב הרבים
אהבת עולם בית ישראל
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לו תודפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue silently on page 209.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Please join me responsibly, beginning on the bottom of page 209. Truly, this is our faithful affirmation, binding on us, that Adonai is our God and there is none other. And we, Israel, are God's people. God redeems us from earthly rulers. Our sovereign delivers us from the hand of all tyrants. God performs wonders beyond understanding, marvels beyond all reckoning. God exalted us above all those who hated us, avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. As our pursuing enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. Then Moses, Miriam, and the people Israel joyfully sang this song to you.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל
Now please join me responsively on page 211. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to waken us again to life, our sovereign. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us and over all the people Israel and over Jerusalem.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני ברוך הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים
Please rise, page 212. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. The people of Israel shall observe the Sabbath to maintain it as an everlasting covenant throughout all generations. It is a sign between me and the people Israel for all time, that in 6 days Adonai made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day ceased from work and rested. Ki v'yom hazeh, for on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your transgressions. In the presence of Adonai you shall be pure.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם, לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם, לפני אדוני תנהרו. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבם, ילמד יברך עדותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביום איכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבם מברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה ולעילה, מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו
We continue silently, pages 213 through 221, with the insertions tonight for Yom Kippur and Shabbat.
As you complete the Amidah, let's put our arms around each other and join in Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh Shalom aleinu, Shalom aleinu, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh Shalom aleinu, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom bimromav. Ya'aseh Shalom aleinu, Shalom aleinu, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Amen. Amen.
Please remain standing. On 223, the beautiful Yaleh, which affirms that whether in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, God listens to us, God hears our pleas, God hears our teshuvah, our yearning to turn back from the direction in which we have been going. He hears us whenever we give voice to our feelings and our strivings and our yearnings. Yaleh, page 223. Be seated. When we speak of God on the high holy days, we are drawn to the words from Scripture, which remind us that God is a forgiving God. Adonai, Adonai, God merciful and compassionate, patient, abounding in love and faithfulness, assuring love for thousands of generations, forgiving iniquity, transgressions, and sin, and granting pardon. The 13 attributes of power and love that are defined in the Torah, open to us as men and women of flesh and blood. Page 232.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Nose avon v'apesha, V'chata v'nakeh.
Zlach lanu avinu ki chatanu. On this day of atonement, we ask you to forgive us, O God. Pardon us, for we have transgressed. For you, Adonai, are kind and forgiving, and you act generously and graciously to all who call on you in truth. 232.
Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu mechalanu malkeinu ki fashanu ki atah Kol korecha ki ata Adonai tov v'salach v'rav chesed l'chol
Shema Kolenu. Oh, hear us, O God. It's the desperate plea to God on the assumption that God is not always listening precisely to us at any given moment because he has more than one of us to listen to. We call upon the cantor to scream unto God, Shema Kolenu, in its loudest voice, to grab God's attention. Of course, this isn't really how it is with God. God always hears. But sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we want to do something good, when we want to say something right, that it's not enough just to mumble it. We have to take ownership of it. We have to cry out. We have to show what we feel and not keep it harbored deep inside. If we want God to hear us now, then we need to cry out as well. Hear our voice, Adonai our God, and be kind and have compassion. Dear God, do not push us away, even though we have been so unworthy of your love. Our behavior has disturbed us, let alone you. And as we grow old, dear God, do not let us be lost. Let us not be forgotten. And as our energy wanes, as we begin to feel some of the vibrancy of youth fade from us, stay with us, God, and be our support and strength. For then we will need you more than ever. We rise for Shema Kolenu, 233.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Chus v'rachem aleinu, aleinu. V'kabel berachamim, berachamim, uveratzon et tefilatenu. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, Hashivenu elecha ונשובה חדש ימינו ימינו כקדם. אל תשליכנו אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה כי חלות כוחנו תעזבנו. שמע קולנו אדוני אלוהינו חוס ורחם עלינו וקבל ברחמים ברחמים וברצון את
May be seated.
I'm reading on the top of page 234. Our God and God of our ancestors, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement, for we are your people and you are our God. We are your children and you are our parent. Ki anu amecha, page 234.
כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו אנו בניך ואתה אבינו אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו אנו צונך ואתה רוענו אנו חרמך ואתה נותרנו אנו פעולתך ואתה יוצרנו. אנו ראייתך ואתה דודנו. אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו. אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו. אנו ממירך ואתה ממירנו. אנו עזיפנים ואתה רחום וחנון. אנו עזיפנים ואתה רחום וחנון. אנו קשי עורף ואתה רחפיים. אנו מלא עוון ואתה מלא רחמים. אנו ימינו כצל עובר ואתה ושנותיך לא יתאמו. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, תבוא לפניך תפילתנו, ואל תתעלם מתחינתנו, שאין אנחנו עזיפנו כשי עורף, לומר לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו. צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו ואבותינו חטאנו.
We rise for the first confessional, Ashamnu Bagadnu, page 235.
Ashamnu Bagadnu Gazalnu Dibarnu Dofi Hevinu Vehirshanu Zadnu Hamasnu Tafalnu Sheker Yatznu Ra Kizavnu Latnu Maradnu Niatznu Sararnu Avinu Pashanu Sararnu Kishinu Oref Rashanu Shichatnu Tiavnu Tainu Titanu
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, page 237, the continuation of the confessional of Yom Kippur.
על כן שחטאנו לפניך באונס ורצון. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בכחש ובכזב. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעיניים רמות, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעזות מצח, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בפרי כתול. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשומת יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתימון לבב, ועל כולם
You may be seated. Page 245.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, בעלמא דברי חידותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון ויומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עמיה. ויתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה. שמי דקודש הבריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא. ויאמרו יקבל צלות ההון ובאותו לכל ישראל קודם מבוהון דיבי שמיה דיבי שמיה דיבי שמיה ויאמרו אמן יש לומר רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל ואמרו עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו
Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Yantiv. People expect their rabbi to be strong, to be decisive, to know how to react and how to respond. But tonight, I must be honest and tell you that it has at times, these last 4+ weeks, overwhelmed me as much as it has so many, if not all of you. I was reminded this morning of a question that was asked of President Kennedy at his first press conference. He was asked if there had been any surprises that he had discovered since becoming president just a few days earlier. And he gave a great answer, I thought. He said, the biggest surprise was discovering that things were as bad as I had said they were. And that's how I felt this morning when I walked Congressman John Culberson, who's sitting before me, Congressman Al Green, Lee Wunsch, Dennis Bram, members of our staffs, through what was Congregation Beth Yeshurun's campus. It's like a bad rendition of Dayenu. It would have been bad enough that we had hundreds and hundreds of families whose homes flooded. It would have been bad enough that we couldn't find a place for our congregation to come together until Joel Osteen, Lakewood Church, opened their arms and said, come out of the desert and into the oasis. You can pray here, be safe, be dry. But then our beautiful spiritual home flooded. I don't know how many of you have had the chance to see it, to walk there. It's open. You'll love the security now at Beth Yeshurun. It's basically just walk in. And when you walk in, you will not recognize what used to be perhaps the most beautiful synagogue in America. Everything has been ripped up, the walls, floors, chairs. We are part of a synagogue that We are a synagogue that is never flooded, never even come close. As part of our BY 2000 initiative 10 or 12 years ago, obviously more than that, we finished it around 10 or 12 years ago, we installed state-of-the-art drainage outside all around our building. And that drainage kept our synagogue dry through all the storms that followed. Yes, we survived all the hurricanes. The terrible flooding on Memorial Day, Tax Day, Beth Yeshurun was dry. But this time, we weren't so lucky. The entire building took in water, anywhere from a foot to as much as 4 feet in the Barg Sanctuary. The Barg Sanctuary, when I saw it 2 days after the flood, looked like an indoor swimming pool. Every office, every hallway, classroom flooded. Not just the Barg Sanctuary, but the Freeman Levitt Sanctuary, the Greenfield Chapel, Pulaski Rouch, Stein Hall, gift shop, restrooms. You name it, all the offices. You can walk through the building and you can see the extent of the destruction, and you ask yourselves, how will we ever rebuild it again? Whatever you remember of Beth Yeshurun, savor it, because it is now just a memory. For so many of us for whom Beth Yeshurun has been an inseparable part of who we are as members of the Jewish faith and people, it's one of the most painful things I've ever seen. Like many of you, I grew up at Beth Yeshurun when it was way over on Southmore. Some of you may remember, had this beautiful lawn with these long strands of moss that hung so gracefully from all those trees on our property. And we were all excited when Beth Yeshurun moved to Beech Nut, and it seemed like everyone attended that first service, that first Friday night service on August the 24th, 1962, in the Great Sanctuary, as it was called. Some 1,400 people somehow squeezed in there, and rows of folding chairs had to be put in the Pulaski Rouch Auditorium because it wasn't finished yet. I was 11 years old that night, and I came with my parents, and I still remember the excitement of that night as we all looked with awe at that burning bush. We'd never seen anything so big and colorful. That's in a day, don't forget, when most of us had black and white TV. And then we looked to our left and we saw this gigantic, extraordinary mosaic, and this one over there. And we spent the whole evening, if you were 11, counting all the light bulbs in that magnificent sanctuary. While the rabbi talked and talked, you know how rabbis are. And at last the service began, and the two B'nai Mitzvah boys began making their way up the center aisle, surrounded by an honor guard of all their best friends. And I remember when just 2 years later my own turn came, and my partner, Mark Greenkoff, who just passed away, and I reached the front of the column, all dressed up in my first suit, with my nicely slicked back hair. And Rabbi Malev proclaimed for all the world to hear, "David Rosen, son of Lester and Toby Rosen, ascend." It was the biggest part I'd ever had in my life. Those were the days. Many of us have similar stories about our connection to that building over on Beech Nut. Many of you went to the foundation school, later became Beth Yeshurun Day School, while others like me attended the Hebrew school, which I will admit now I hated. But what are you going to do, fire me? But the truth is, I learned so much there that I didn't even realize it until later. Today, I read Hebrew thanks to what I was taught in the Beth Yeshurun Hebrew School. What I learned about Jewish history and prayer, about Israel and the commandments and the Torah, the teachers at Beth Yeshurun taught me those things. And I remember Hillel High School in the 60s and 70s. I know a number of you were classmates of mine or a few years before or after, and you remember how it was on Saturday mornings that after your junior congregation, you went into the sanctuary and you sat right in front of the poor cantor who had to watch us fidget for an hour and a half. Of course, we sat there like angels, very quiet, because if we didn't, Rabbi Malev would give us that look, that stare. And he would always stop the service and say, "I hear one child talking." And years later, when I entered rabbinical school or applied, the admissions committee was astounded when I sang for them the entire Shabbat morning service, which I still remembered in rabbinical school for my days coming to Beth Yeshurun. We all have memories. Some of us have old memories, some of us have new ones. How many of us or our children were married at Beth Yeshurun by one of our rabbis? Too many to count. Until we flooded, we had a baby birth book at the shul in which we recorded not hundreds but thousands of newborn babies' names whose young lives started in our synagogue. Along the way, new generations have joined us, as have so many of you from other parts of the country, from other faiths, and of course from just right here in Houston because you heard such sweet things about Beth Yeshurun and decided to become part of our congregational family. Yes, our congregation has since 1891 been a place where memories are made every day, where we are there for one another when we need a lift, and where there is an endless supply of encouragement offered by your rabbis and friends. It's a place where, until a month ago, you could come any Friday night to perk yourself up after a long week. It's a place where, when you walked in, people you didn't even know could come up to you and express their condolences on a recent loss and give you a little hug. And were complete strangers that you hadn't invited to your child's bar or bat mitzvah service, but nonetheless show up, probably for the lunch, but nonetheless they were there. And they gave your little girl a squeeze on the cheek and told her how proud they were. There aren't too many places like a shul, where we know we are always welcome, can always knock on a rabbi's door, know that when we're in the hospital we'll be visited, know that if we need help, we're not alone. That physical place is now empty. But our memories, our parents' memories, our children's memories will forever fill every square inch of that place where the joy of Jewish living we celebrated there for so long has given way to painful silence. Our congregation, whose full Hebrew name is Kehillah Kedoshah Beit Yeshurun, the holy congregation of the people Yeshurun, Yeshurun being a name for Israel in the Torah, that place now needs our heartfelt support. Many of you have come up to me and said, half jokingly, I think, "Rabbi, don't you wish that you had decided to retire this past July rather than next July?" It's an interesting question. But the truth is, I've got to be honest with you, I'm glad I was here. I'm glad that even this terrible thing we have all endured happened on my watch. And I think Rabbi Strauss is happy about that too. For is there any more compelling or meaningful thing that a rabbi can do than to be there with his community, with his congregation, when his shul has gone through what we are going through now? That is what rabbis are supposed to do. To teach that Judaism is not just matzah and hamantashen. It is about how we must care about one another, how we must help each other. Even when a stranger's burden becomes overwhelming, we must reach out to him, to her. We must remember the mantra, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh, that every one of us is responsible for every one of us. because we are part of a community. We are not strangers to one another. We are brothers and sisters who have created a Jewish world, and we've given it a name, we've given it a place, the house of Israel. To take care of one another, to embrace and give shelter to those whose lives have been displaced by tragedy or acts of nature. That's what we're all here for. This is what rabbis are supposed to do. It's what we're all supposed to do because it's what makes us children of God. People who love their neighbors as themselves and are committed to living lives that are infused with holiness. And that's why I'm here tonight, because I love this congregation. I love you, and I love our shul. And just as I want to have my home back on Darcy Street for my wife and my family and my friends, I want my home back on Beech Nut. I want it back with all my heart, with all my soul. And I need your help. We're going to need everyone's help. We're going to need the government's help, FEMA's help, the help that comes from philanthropic organizations and charities around the world. We're going to need the help of major beneficiaries and benefactors right in our own congregation and throughout the city of Houston, who can help us get our home back, to rebuild those sanctuaries, rebuild our schools, rebuild the chapel, so that prayer can fill our beloved home again every day as it has for more than a century. And we're going to need help from every single person sitting in this sanctuary tonight. We have an extraordinary, once-in-a-lifetime challenge before us. Even with flood insurance, we will need an additional $1 to $2 million to rebuild our home. Tonight, I'm asking everyone to look into your heart and ask, what can I give? What can I really give? Yes, I know that there are many who are hard-pressed, right now especially. I understand. I know that there are some of us in the sanctuary tonight who live on fixed incomes, are retired. I accept and understand that as well. I'll soon be one of you. Still, I'm going to ask every adult in this congregation to be part of this in some way, however large or small. Together, one day, we are all going to be sitting together in our beautiful house of prayer, and we're going to be davening together again on Beech Nut. We're going to be celebrating Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur again, and when that day comes, I want every single person to be able to say to him or herself, I was part of that. I have made this happen. I committed some of my own treasure to making sure we had this shul again. When the Israelites were in the wilderness, God brought them together and said, Asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham. I don't want you wandering all around, God said. I want you to build me a house of prayer so that we can find each other and be together. Build me a sanctuary, God commanded. And He's calling on us now. Together, let us build that sanctuary so that we may one day soon return to God's house on Beech Nut and affirm that very commandment which I mentioned, which is so important, that it is inscribed on the wall of Fred Freeman Levitt's sanctuary. It is still there when all else in that sanctuary is gone. It is clinging for dear life on that wall. We're going to restore it. We're going to fix it. We're going to make our home beautiful again, just like we are trying to do with so many of our own homes, with our businesses, and so many other places that are important to us and our families. God is calling on us now. My friends, one night a terrible fire engulfed a beautiful synagogue. The blaze lit up the sky and attracted a group of people from far and near. And a member of the synagogue could be seen racing into the sanctuary, where with great love and courage he pulled the Sefer Torah to safety. The rabbi walked over to the man and asked him, "Who are you?" The man proudly answered, "I'm a member." "That's funny," said the rabbi. I don't recall seeing you in temple before. And the man answered, I don't recall the temple ever being on fire before. Tonight, my friends, our temple, our synagogue, our congregation, Beth Yeshurun, is not on fire, but it has nearly drowned, and it needs our help. May we rise on this new year and show our children and grandchildren that we possess the same love and courage and generosity of spirit as those who built Beth Yeshurun on Beech Nut. Together, we can rebuild, renew, preserve, grow, and thrive in our new synagogue. It takes all of us together to rebuild the best, most important, and vital place in our Jewish lives. I'm going to ask you today to take the card that is going to be handed out to you when you leave. No passing of cards tonight here. No bending the tabs. This is going to be simply a call to action. Look at the card. Think about what's been said. Reflect on what you've heard. If you need proof, stroll over. See it for yourself. It's not going to be rebuilt, and it's not going to be renewed without you. Thank you. Together, let us say with big and full hearts, Hineni, I will be there for our beautiful Beit Yeshurun. Good Yontif.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Tonight is a very holy night. It's the holiest night of the year for all of us. It's also a sad night for me, personally, because it's the last time I get a chance to be on the bima with my favorite rabbi, Rabbi Rosen.
You're not coming back tomorrow?
I'm coming back tomorrow. I said tonight. It's Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre. It's the last Kol Nidre I will be able to sing with my colleague here. This is my 5th year with you in this beautiful congregation. And I wanted to take this occasion to thank Rabbi Rosen for being my best friend at Beth Yeshurun, my supporter, my critic. And I truly love this man. He is, without doubt, the finest rabbi I've ever worked with in my long career. I feel very privileged to have been here with him on his last year as your rabbi. Also, I want to introduce your future rabbi, who has a few words he'd like to say.
I still have to write my stuff out, so I've got it right here. And I hope you didn't think you'd get away without us surprising you and saying some very nice words about you, David. For over 16 years, I've been privileged to work for you. Not many people after 16 years can say they have a lot of nice things to say about their boss. But I thank God every day that I've been so blessed. Why? My friends, we learn a lot about the power of light in our tradition. In our Torah, we recall the lighting of the original 7-branched menorah, a menorah that was always lit to remind the ancient Israelites of the constant presence of God's protective light. The rabbis ask, why has light been such a favorite symbol of God? They say it's because light itself cannot be seen. We only become aware of its presence when it enables us to see the world around us. For example, the rabbis teach we cannot see God, but we become aware of God's presence when we can see the beauty that is in our world, or when we experience the goodness of our fellow human beings. In the same way, we cannot always see or even comprehend the tremendous challenges our senior rabbi successfully overcomes every single day in leading a large congregation such as ours. but fortunately. Fortunately, we often become aware of his extraordinary presence. We are comforted by his compassion, moved by his words, touched by his distinctive wisdom, or motivated by his passion for Israel, his enthusiasm for Shabbat and holiday music, his dedication to Jewish education, and in his complete and undying devotion to congregation Beth Yeshurun. We are all fully aware of the great light that he has brought into our lives and the work he does to make sure everything in our congregation is running smoothly, is truly never ending. He has often demonstrated to me and so many of us just how much good a rabbi can do. There is a reason he's often looked upon not just as our rabbi, but the rabbi of the entire Houston Jewish community. He does it all and yet is always available to lend a helping hand or to simply listen to anyone. On this holiest of nights, I am reminded I've had the honor of working for a beacon of bright light that continues to shower numerous blessings upon me, my family, and most importantly, upon all of us. Now, David, before I conclude, I have two pieces of good news. Number one, next summer, you might be even busier because I promise I'll be calling you many, many times for help. I hope that's good news to you. And I hope you'll still answer the phone when I call. When I need your advice on an important subject or a word to uplift me or a shoulder to cry on, I know I can still count on you to be there for me, as you've been there for all of us, as our senior rabbi. That's the type of human being that you are at your essence, who Lester and Toby raised, who we've all loved, and has allowed you to help change so many lives for the better. And number two, David, you again effectively reminded all of us tonight, this has been, unfortunately, a very difficult hour for our congregation, perhaps the most difficult in our long history. More than ever before, we have needed a leader, a light of calm, a radiance of perseverance, a brilliance of fortitude to show us the way out of the darkness, to remind us all that we can get through this, that life, God willing, will return one day to the home of our congregation. David, your light has truly shined brightest when we needed it most, and will always remind us just how blessed we have all been to have called you our senior rabbi for the past 22 years. Under the direction of the marvelous Bruce Stein and our Director of Development, Jennifer Sutton, once we rebuild Beth Yeshurun, and thanks to you we will demonstrate our great admiration for you by naming the main entry of our newly rebuilt congregation Beth Yeshurun, the gateway into our spiritual home, is the Rabbi David B. Rosen main entrance. The Rabbi David B. Rosen main entrance will be the first impression to each and every congregant, community member, parent, student, and visitor. It will serve as a concrete reflection of your commitment to excellence and unwavering dedication to our congregation. You have devoted your professional life to our beloved synagogue, and as such, it is only fitting that the entrance to our spiritual home be named in your honor. And to fully honor you, I would also like to announce that we are kicking off our Rabbi David B. Rosen tribute year tonight. All the funds we start collecting now and throughout this year to rebuild our congregational building will be done in your honor. We feel there's no better way to pay reverence to you than to guarantee the future strength and the vitality of our congregation. This has been your holy work for the past 22 years. Now together, we will ensure the future of our synagogue building for generations to come. David, we all look forward to this upcoming year, this important of all times, as a year of rebuilding and dedication to you, and so much to all of what you've done for everyone here. Thank you, David, for all that you do for us. Enjoy. You deserve it.
He does speak nice. I obviously have nothing prepared to say except thank you. I'm overwhelmed, unexpected. I think I'm just too pooped to go on, honestly. It's been an extraordinary run. I've had a fantastic career at Beth Yeshurun. We have another almost a year to go, 9 months. And it would mean the world to me to see our building put back up. I can't think of anything more important to me right now. And I know that those of you who have been part of our congregation for years or even in the short term feel so connected to that place for all the special things that have happened there. And I do hope everybody will find a way to be part of this, whether it's a small gift, a large gift. Most importantly, we've stayed together. We had so many who said they weren't going to come this year to High Holy Days. It reached a point where I had to write that letter to the congregation. It was a response to an outpouring of people telling me and our colleagues, my colleagues, that they weren't coming. And I'm so happy that overwhelming number of those who wrote me actually ended up coming, and that we have continued to have wonderful responses from you, the congregation. I'm glad we were here, and that Pastor Osteen and his church gave us this place. I'm grateful to Congressman John Culberson. You don't know, but he stepped in and went to Pastor Osteen and said, I've got a shidduch here. There'd be a match. But you knew what shidduch meant already, I think. No, you didn't. He was telling me today that he just thought this would be a beautiful connection, a large synagogue, a large church, one helping the other. Dennis Bram, who's sitting next to him, was our person, our go-to person. And Dennis has a strong legal connection to the church. He's outside legal counsel to Joel Osteen. And so when we spoke about coming here, I turned to Dennis, and Dennis was already ahead of me. He'd already spoken to Congressman Culberson, and they were already planning a way for this to happen. We're so glad to have, by the way, Pastor Osteen's mother right here on the front row. So I'm not going to say any more. I've talked long enough, and we'll have other opportunities to see each other in the coming year. I thank Cantor Finkelstein for his beautiful words, for his enduring friendship, and of course, Rabbi Strauss, who I leave so comfortably to carry forward my work and the work of this congregation in just a few short months. I thank both of them for their very, very sweet and thoughtful words. I thank the congregation and Bruce for the, I'm not sure what it's going to be exactly, a walk. Just be sure you wipe your feet when you come to shul. Little respect. Thank you, everybody. Let's move our service to a close. Back in our prayer books, Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו, ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטש שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. What page is Mourner's Cottage? 47? 247. The Mourner's Cottage, for those who are in mourning and those observing a yard site. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divarach yerutei v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'izman kari v'imeru, amen. Yahei shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam elomei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imeru, amen. Yahei shalama rabba min ha'shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru, amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru, amen. You may be seated. Just a couple of quick announcements and reminders. We will continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 here in the sanctuary. Our services tomorrow will run to approximately sometime between 2 and 3, and then we will actually uproot ourselves and move to the 4th floor. And you'll have directions in the afternoon, and there'll be ushers and guides to take you up there. We'll be moving to a new room so that Joel Osteen Ministries can clear our sanctuary here and prepare for their Sunday morning worship service. It takes them a long time to do that and make the changes necessary. So we will not be doing the Mincha service and Ne'ilah in here. We will be doing it on the 4th floor. There's a very large room up there. Tomorrow we begin our Yizkor service at 6:15, and that is when, of course, we invite all of our children who are in the congregation to come. We give them glow sticks, and they get to come in the room, and we sing Eliyahu Hanavi. We do Havdalah, blow the shofar. It's a great way to end the service. Our service at 4:15 will be upstairs as well. That is our Mincha service, and that will include a wonderful address by our new young rabbi, Rabbi Fort, and we will also hear from 3 of our high school kids talking about their experiences with other Jewish organizations here in our city. We have a wonderful day tomorrow, a long day, but a time for us again to be together and to stay together. And so now, thanking my colleagues for the beautiful words, I think we have come finally to the end. Let us turn back in our prayer books, 249.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי ויצרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא בידו תפקיד רוחי בעת אישן ויעירה ועם רוחי גבייתי אדוני לי ולא
Shabbat Shalom and good Yontiv, everybody.